Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I'm your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We will give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Anna Cadavos. Anna is the founder and owner of Cadavos Enterprise LLC, which focuses on passive income and helping individuals create passive income for themselves. Anna was previously a victim advocate for individuals as well as an interpreter. You can find Anna on her LinkedIn by searching Anna H. Cadavos or by searching her on Facebook at Anna Cadavos. Hello, Anna. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Hey,
To
thanks
start
for having me.
of course. To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Anna Cadavos?
Yeah, so to me, success is not measured by, say, the amount of money that you make, um, but it's more so the amount of lives that are impacted. And I once had a mentor tell me a millionaire is someone who's impacted a million lives. But for me, that really starts at home. And so, is it a successful day if I've crammed it full of meetings, maybe made a lot of money, but never spent any time with my daughter, my husband? No. So for me, success starts in the four walls of my house, and then spreads outward.
Anna, you currently focus on passive income and making passive income.
Mhm.
What brought you to focusing on that for your livelihood, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, so it was really more out of necessity that I started this passive income stream because I was working multiple jobs. I worked my 9 to 5, coached swim on the side. I did a lot of interpreting. I did photography, and I basically ran out of hours in my day. I had no more hours to exchange for a salary or an hourly paycheck. And so the idea of passive is that you can do work one time as a controlled effort, and then you can be paid on it infinitely. And that's really what I wanted. That was the only way in my head that I could think, okay, I'm going to get a little bit more income into my life, because I had no more time. So if I could create this stream, that was what appealed to me.
How did you go from working full time to just doing passive income and saying this is, a lot of people think passive income is only something you do as an addition to something else, but for you, you found that that's not the case at all, and sometimes that term can be misconstrued. How have you navigated that?
So initially, it truly was not anything that I was looking to replace a salaried income. I was in the MBA program at Clemson University at the time and expecting my first child. And I really had no aspiration to give up my career path. I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, was looking at an HR role, actively interviewing for a few positions with some great companies at that point. And passive income for me was just something on the side to provide for an unpaid maternity leave, to pay some bills, get us out of debt, and just really allow for more breathing room. Right. Well, when I had my child, everything kind of changed. They say becoming a mom changes you. It does. I didn't expect to ever think like, man, I wish I didn't have to leave my kid because that's just never been me. I wasn't sure that I even wanted to become a mom in the first place. And I don't know, I convinced myself to go back to work. And that first day back, I sobbed the whole day. But I actually also got a paycheck, like a bonus check from one of my income streams that I had started, and it was for way more than I would have made in a month sitting at my job. And that was kind of the light bulb moment for me, like, okay, there are options here. And so it was at that point that I went home, I told my husband, I was like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna quit." And he was fully supportive. I turned in my resignation, day after, so my second day back from maternity leave, and it really kind of never looked back. And so since then, obviously that took like the main role in my life, and that's what I was focused on. So something passive really became more active for a season. And one of my mentors actually taught me the idea of get money by income. So if you can create some extra money in your life, whether it's while you're working a 9 to 5 and you just have extra from that paycheck, whether it's from, investments, whether it's from something that you're doing as a side job, whatever it is, if you can have this extra money, you can pour it into something passive. It's going to create this steady inflow of cash for you month after month after month. Um, it might grow, it might be the same amount month after month, but if you can diversify and build that, then all of a sudden you have more money to invest into other things. And so you can buy income in a sense. You can develop streams of revenue that you're not actively working for. And that's not a concept they teach you in grad school by any means. I mean, of course, you're taught about the stock market or like a Roth IRA, but otherwise, no one teaches that. And so that kind of blew my mind. I feel like I learned a lot in that first year just stepping away from corporate America. And now that's what I'm most passionate about is letting people know, like, hey, there are options.
And I think that's a key point. Well, you made a few during that, but one of them being it's okay when hey, there's that light bulb moment. There's something bigger. I could be doing something more. And it allows me to be happier inside, but also meet my success goals. It's okay to step away from that 9 to 5, that traditional role, and pursue other opportunities because in the long run, you will end up being happier.
Yeah,
Another thing you had brought up is really understanding that passive income is can make money, can become more active, role within your revenue stream that you build over time, and that it isn't just stock markets and the IRA and the traditional means that get brought up in a classroom or that get talked about. Can you tell us a little bit about the different types of passive income there are and how you decided on the passive income trajectory you're on currently?
sure. So, you do have investments, stocks, all of that. That's probably what pops into people's head when they think about like maybe some income on the side. At least that's what it was for me. And the thing that I'll tell you about investments, not being a financial advisor, is that you have to have money to invest money. You can't invest money that you don't have. And honestly, it's not smart to invest money that you're not willing or able to lose. You also have to have time for that money to grow. And I had neither at that point in my life. And so that wasn't a good option for me. There are also like real estate investments you can make. This one's gotten hugely popular just in the last 5 or 10 years where people are flipping real estate, wholesaling. And my brother-in-law is in that world, and it's a great stream of revenue. It can be very passive or it can be active. But again, that's not anything that I was necessarily looking for at the time. And then there's this whole world of making money online. And it can be active where you're, exchanging like content pieces. You make so many pieces, like so user generated content, UGC is very popular now with the rise of TikTok. You can do contractual work, you can do secretarial, like medical, there's so many jobs, that's all active. Passive is where I can do something one time and I'm going to earn off of it. So, with that line of thinking, I looked into a bunch. Um, there are really like three good ways. Like I said, one, you can invest online. Um, Two is content creation, like in the form of a course or a downloadable, like digital file, PDF. That could be anything from kids' coloring sheets to more specialized information. Courses typically are like for a niche audience and they offer more exclusive content, maybe mentoring, maybe it's a how to, something like that, but you record the course once, you have the materials for it once, you can make as many times as that's purchased or downloaded. That wasn't a good option for me either, where I was in life. And then you have the world of affiliate marketing. And there's a lot of gatekeeping. Affiliate marketing can be very active, like where you're having to constantly post and try and funnel people through a link or a coupon code, or it can become passive if you partner with companies that allow you to keep customers, like for reorders, things like that. So that's really kind of what I did some digging into and ultimately where I landed and teach other people how to do the same.
And I think it's very interesting, and something you brought up is within passive, even within making income off of one time, pushes and building of data, there's even realms within that. And you see a lot of individuals like on Etsy, that
Mhm.
downloadable PDF, or here's the curriculum you can download and learn. For you, you found the marketing aspect of it, and that one time, you know, building of content, and then being able to push it out and everything like that.
Right.
What was it like navigating that specific lane and learning how companies operate and the best way for you to operate within that realm as well?
Right. So there were some key pieces that I was looking for as far as partnership with a company. And this is where you have to do a lot of negotiating or be willing to do a lot of looking. For me, the pieces that mattered most was one, are they offering like a consumable good? Is it going to be used up? Because I know if you want something passive, you have to create a market where customers are going to keep coming back, right? They're not going to do that for leggings or for jewelry or even like the Stanley Cups that you see all the influencers promoting right now. Like there's a threshold for how much of that people will buy. And so, can it be used up? Two, is the company asking you for exclusivity? Because if they are, they're capping who you can work with, maybe the other amounts of income that you can make. And so if they're gonna do that and they're gonna expect that, then to me, they should be willing to compensate me for exclusivity. Most of them don't want to. So that was immediately out for me. Are they actually paying good commissions percentages? Because most of it is like 10, 12% or less, depending on what you're offering to your audience. That could be a good amount, but usually it's not, especially if it's a consumable good. And a lot of them really just want to do the product compensation. Like, hey, we'll give you this for free if you'll talk about it, which is great if you love a brand, but that wasn't going to help me create income. Um, and so I'm looking at these things. And then the last piece kind of that I was taking into consideration is, does the brand that I'm working with, do they want me to produce a certain amount of content per week or per month? Like, what are they expecting as far as what I put out on my platform? Um, I personally don't like partnering with anyone who requires me to do a certain amount of posts or content creation because that's active. I can't go at my own pace and do what I want. Um, but also that feels inauthentic. And I'm a really big believer in authenticity. That's how I think you can market the best in this realm of affiliate marketing is you have to truly love it and to truly want to talk about whatever it is. If it's like one of the hashtag ad posts, people automatically scroll by it because it doesn't feel real to them. So that was another really big piece for me is, can I just make what I want when I want to, talk about what I want when I want to? Can I throw in other brands that I don't get paid for because I truly love it? All of that mattered. And so all of those were key pieces in kind of making decisions on where I was going to land.
And that brings me to two follow-up questions. So we'll hit the one and then we'll kind of circle back. But you talk about negotiation, and negotiation is key for your own happiness in your personal life or getting that role working with the company. How do you practice your negotiation skills and when you're talking with companies to make sure your voice is heard, what you want is heard, but understanding that you might have to kind of go back and forth sometimes?
Sure. I think first the key is knowing your own value. What is your time worth? Like, how much could you generate in an hour? How much are they willing to pay for whatever amount of work that they're wanting to do? Know your value. And that's a really big key piece. I think most people tend to either underestimate their value or way overestimate. It has to be reasonable for where you are. So if you're just starting out, like you have to understand you're just starting out versus if you've built years of influence and credibility and can produce, real statistics on how a certain thing has done for you, that's a different story. So I think after you know your value, like be able to showcase your value. You can't just know it. You have to prove what you're worth. And then realize like most companies, they don't expect you to just take them up on their first offer. They actually have built-in wiggle room. So it's figuring out where that line is and does that middle ground work for both sides.
And I think that's really important is understanding your worth so you know what you bring to the table, able to showcase that yes, I can really provide this and I can really do it. I'm not just saying I could do it. And then thirdly, you know, understanding there is that wiggle room. A lot of people, especially when you're young, you're entering into the field, you're excited to get that first offer, right?
Mhm.
And you don't think, even if you're climbing the ladder, you don't always realize that there is room to negotiate, that it is okay to ask for more and then come back and meet in a middle ground because a lot of companies do build that into their budget.
Right.
How do you navigate the okay, here's my counter offer, but not making it too high either?
Um, I think I just have a hard line of knowing what I will and won't do at this point. And so if I find their hard line and it doesn't match, I'm good with saying no. Um, but you also have to think futuristically. Like maybe you're willing to take a lower offer now, but it could turn into more content or a longer contract or whatever the case may be if that performs really well or they're really pleased with what you're doing. Um, Another like tip that I would give people is if you're negotiating, maybe give them ideas of what you want to do. You could provide them with a trending sound or this is what I have in mind. I'd really like to do this, but this is my price. And then, a lot of times they love your idea. You do run the risk of them taking that and going to someone else, but that's really up to you.
How we'll circle back to the second question now. Authenticity is so important, and I agree with you. You shine when you're authentic, and people could tell the difference of when you're being you, especially in a post when you're marketing something or you're just kind of being forced to do it because you've signed a contract and it's there. And you see that too when, certain celebrities or individuals who are making these posts put that hashtag that it's an ad, so you don't think that's their real persona or what they're really trying to do. How do you continue to be authentic in your everyday life, but even with your posts and trying to make sure everyone understands this is who I am? I'm
Mhm.
not just doing this.
Yeah, so I think to start with, you have to have a target audience. I think this is really important to show up authentically because if you're trying to reach everybody with a content piece or just on your personal page, you're really going to reach nobody or you're not going to connect genuinely with people. And so I talk a lot to moms, but also a lot to people in corporate America. Those are kind of my two different target audiences. A lot of my content that I make relates to either of those groups. Um, So know who you're talking to, know their emotions, what they care to see, like what they find entertaining. And it kind of matches up to what I like talking about. And so I think it's really key to know your audience. But then I think it's key to know that you're not gonna be for everyone, and that's okay. That kinda goes with what I was just saying, but someone was just asking me yesterday, like, "I saw all the comments on one of your last reels, like, some of them are really nasty," and it happened to be one that had just gone viral. Um, my goal is never virality. I don't like going viral because what happens is it's just the algorithm, but it's pushing your content to people that it probably wasn't intended for in the first place. And that's when you start to get a lot of those nasty comments. Versus if your content is pushed to a target audience, to a community that you've built, then it's always met with like warmth and reception. And so I think it's important for me and my mental health, for me to be able to show up authentically, is that I've built this community of people who like, know, and trust me. And so I feel like there's a space where I can be honest, where I can just show behind the scenes. Like, we live in a generation where things have been so filtered for so long and so scripted for so long that that kind of turns people off now. And so if you can show up with it out of filter, when you can just be honest about like daily struggles, show people that you're a real human, when you share things that you never get paid for, never will get paid for, and then share things that you do get paid for, well, that makes you a lot more trustworthy because people feel like they know you. So it's really about creating community centered around your authenticity, and you have to be okay with yourself first. And then that'll shine. Other people will figure it out. People aren't ignorant when it comes to like looking at content on social media. Everyone knows what was made just for like the clicks versus what's authentic.
How do you make sure that, especially in a realm of social media, that authenticity and, you know, that level of just being engaged with your audience and communicating feels like it really is you? Because sometimes it can get stressful.
Sure.
Like that video that went viral, there's a lot of people seeing it. I guess there could be some negative light, but there's a lot of people who see that and can either relate, or they're like, "Oh, I didn't know this." This kind of peels back another onion, that layer to the onion that makes me want to connect with you more.
Mhm.
How do you kind of in those moments say, "Okay, I'm just putting it out there and we'll see where it goes," when you might be unsure?
Right. Um, I kind of operate by gut feeling a lot. I know that's not necessarily an answer that people expect. But I also think about, as far as producing content and what I want to put out there, what would I like to see on people's social media, like from my friends and family, and from maybe even influencer accounts that I follow? What kind of content would grab my attention? And that has really shaped a lot of what I produce and how I produce it, because I know what turns me off and I know what makes me feel like, okay, I definitely like want to stay connected. Maybe not even reach out, but just like follow along and learn more about this person. Um, so I think about that piece, and I think about what will form connection, because really social media, in my opinion, is for three purposes. You can either educate, you can create connection, make people feel like they're not alone, like there's someone like me out there, or you can entertain. And this is like the humor, the memes, the sarcasm, all of that. So if you can do one of those three things or all of those three things on your platform, your audience that you're going for is naturally just going to be attracted to you.
How has being an interpreter and working in corporate world, and you know you went back to school, so you were already working in you know the corporate world, you were doing different things prior to going back to school and then doing this. How has all those different paths and journeys you've taken along the way played into how you view things now and how you gauge things?
Yeah. So I guess I've learned different things from different career paths. My undergrad degree was in Spanish, and so that's how I got into interpreting. Kind of ultimately ended up as a 911 dispatcher and then a victim advocate over with the district attorney's office because I could speak Spanish and connect with a lot of those individuals. But as an interpreter and as a dispatcher, I think that was kind of my first uh, big girl job or whatever out of college. And that really taught me the importance of clear communication. The same thing applies on social media. I kind of resonate with what Brene Brown says: clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And so if you want to show up authentically and you want to add value to people, which is a big thing that I strive to do, you have to be really clear with your message. Don't just type words to be saying something. A lot of people want to say something, but they don't have anything to say. So if you don't have anything to say, like, don't take up the space. And then as a victim advocate and medical interpreter, a lot of key lessons from there. I learned, like, people are people. Everybody's going through their own story. Like, you really never know what's going on behind closed doors. Um, and if you want to build connection, you have to have compassion. You have to be able to listen. And you also have to show up authentically for them. There has to be a relationship formed. The best interpreters, like, they're trusted by the person that they're serving. They're not sitting over there guessing like, oh, is she really telling me the right thing? The best victim advocates, like, they kind of have a relationship with the victim that they're serving. They walk them through a process. So all of that, I kind of took over to social media. It's formed more of my personal brand, or, like, I guess, core values, you would say. And then through my time in the MBA program, more of the corporate side, that's where I learned some of the, like, the nitty-gritty pieces of business that maybe I wouldn't have known prior. So, like, the difference between attraction marketing versus traditional marketing. Traditional marketing is when you're pushing a message on a group of consumers and they may or may not want that message. Versus attraction marketing is, you're, again, go back to target audience, you're targeting a specific group and giving them a message that they would be interested in or would want to hear. And so it's well received. And what it does is pulls them to you. So it's a push versus pull. Lifetime valuation. So thinking long term instead of just like short term gain. That's what most people do in the blue collar or 9 to 5 world, is they're thinking about that paycheck at the end of the week. Versus if you can start to see, where can I invest? Where can I grow money? I learned a lot of that through my experience in the program and corporate America.
And I think that's it. Two very big key points you had brought up there is being compassionate and showing up, saying, yes, I'm here, you can trust me, and demonstrating that. It isn't enough to just say, yeah, I'm here, I, you can trust me, like, don't worry about a thing, and actually demonstrating it through your actions. And that can be the true difference in someone really taking you for who you are and valuing your input, whether it is through passive income and marketing on social media or in your personal life. It's doing and talking both walks, walking both directions and saying, yes, I'm saying I'm going to be here for you. You can trust me. And this is how I'm proving it to you, not just today, but every day, checking in and having that mindset will alter how people perceive you, and as well as how they value you and your insight that you're bringing to the table. And I think the second key point you had brought up is when you were in your MBA program, really understanding the nitty gritty. Sometimes it isn't enough to just, whether you're learning something through a program or through YouTube or whatever it might be, to not just take words at face value. If you're trying to understand something, do more research, dig in, spend the time, because the money you get back from that, whether it's your time and effort being better spent, or, you know, being able to make longer term investments and get that money back in threefold or more, who knows? But being able to do that because you understand a process, you understand the terminology that's being used, those can really make a difference. How have you kind of navigated that and, learning those terminology, but also not getting overwhelmed with data either?
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in learn as you earn. Um, so if I don't know something, I can figure it out as I go, but be okay with like making messy mistakes and you can clean it up. Most people, the problem is not that they don't know enough to get started. The problem is they don't do enough with what they already know. And so be willing to take the first step. I think that's the biggest thing that I see with even just people that I mentor on a day-to-day basis is they know what authentic content looks like. They might know what to post. I could literally hand them a post and a caption, but they get so in their head about putting their face in front of people on their phone that they can't do it and it paralyzes them. And so the biggest thing is take the first step and the rest is going to start following. But then as you get into it, then you'll know actually what it is you don't know and what you already are pretty good at. And it might surprise you, or you might know exactly like right off, okay, I need to do my work on this. Um, but I think it's better off if you can just do it as you go. Because if you wait to have everything in place, if you wait to have all your ducks in a row, like you're never gonna cross the street. So my best advice is just go for it.
And I think that's really important, and a key takeaway is sometimes you just have to go for it. Because if you're always waiting for that moment where everything aligns, you know every piece of information, well, first of all, everything's always changing.
Right.
So you are not going to know every little piece of how everything works because industries are changing, data is changing regularly. And that's a plus of, us having access to the internet and different things, because with that data changing, you can quickly search and gather that information. But if
Mhm.
you're waiting for that perfect time never comes. You have to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, they actually they have said, an MBA degree is only valuable for about 2 to 3 years now. So at this point in my life, like my MBA is already obsolete. So, I mean, you don't need to go to school and get more degrees. Like just keep learning, like be a lifelong student.
And I think that's important too, is always being able to say, yes, I'm going to learn. I don't know something. I was
Mhm,
having this discussion the other night actually, because I am studying for a certification right now. And I have a bunch of certifications, and people have always asked me, why get that certification? It's not in your direct, undergrad degree or your graduate degree or the role you're in right this moment. And I say, I want to understand other processes, and it might take me to that next level, but also understanding that there's always something to learn. And
mm,
you might not be at a table where you know everything, or you know exactly what's happening in all the moving pieces, but bring value to that table. Say,
mhm,
this is what I know, here's my voice, but also I want to hear the other opinions. Challenge me. Make me sit here and say, okay, I don't know that. That's a good point. Let me go back, learn more, or let's try it out. And that was the discussion I was having the other night. Was someone was saying to me, you seem like you know everything. Why do you keep going?" And I
mhm,
say, well, I seem like I know everything in this conversation because I've had experiences and I've had lessons learned that bring value to this. But when we shift the conversation this way and to the right or to the left, I don't know everything. And you might have more experience in that avenue that will bring me more knowledge and understanding of you as an individual as well, and not just the industry or what we're talking about. But being open to that and saying, "Yes, I wanna understand it." So when you go, I always joke, and Anna, you can tell me if you feel this way. When I go somewhere, I wanna be able to talk to individuals with their passion, what they're
Mhm.
passionate about, and be able to hold that conversation
Right?
because that gauges them and it builds that relationship you're talking about.
Yes.
How do you kind of try to navigate that networking and saying, "Okay, yes, I don't know everything, but I'm gonna learn it as we're speaking, and you might bring up something that really interests me."
Right. Well, I believe that there are two things that will change your life. One is the content that you consume, whether it be books or whatnot. The other is the people that you meet. And you can truly learn something from everyone, whether it's what not to do or whether it's something to do or just a piece of information. Maybe it's you just learn more about like human connection and forming relationships. So I try and approach everything with that mindset is what can I learn here? It doesn't have to benefit me monetarily. Like it can just make me a better person. Um, that's really kind of my goal in networking. And if we can mutually help each other out, that's great. If we can learn something from each other, that's great. If it's just a one time thing where our paths cross once, I can still get value out of that connection and apply it somewhere down the road.
How do you build those connections? And whether it's a one-time meeting or, you know, building them over time, how do you look at them and say, "Okay, this is something that has benefited us in this moment, but I might not, want to long term, or we're on two different trajectories." Or, yes, let me really continue to put effort and time. Because, like you said, time is a real it's your monetary value. It's your own worth, and everyone brings something to the table. And even though you interact with someone today, doesn't mean long term, values shift, trajectories and life shift. Um, and how do you kind of manage that?
Well, I mean, I really believe that everybody comes into your life for a reason or a season, probably both. And so just kind of holding with open hands, like, what is that season? Not having any real expectations that it's going to turn into this or it's going to last so long. So releasing expectations is a big part because when you release expectations, you can just show up and be authentic and strive for that connection piece. And as far as like considering who do I want to continue this connection with maybe down the road, I feel like after you've talked to a lot of people, you kind of just know instantly like who you're clicking with, who has like those core values, that energy that you align with, and where the conversation's comfortable. If you're having to drag out a conversation, that doesn't mean that that person isn't smart or can't add value somewhere. But a lot of times that just means like your energy doesn't match and it's not meant for right now. It might be later. Who knows? So I'm always willing to connect with people on the social media accounts, LinkedIn, stuff like that. But as far as my personal time, you have to have boundaries. And so for me, boundaries around my time, where I spend my energy, who I give my energy to, how much of that energy I'm going to do. So, people book a call with me, they want to connect further on some topic. Well, if they no show, I have a personal policy, like, if you don't let me know, I'm not rescheduling because that's a boundary of mine. If they reach out and they make an inappropriate comment or something, that's a boundary of mine. So that's a key piece too in networking is you have to have some boundaries. You can't be everything for everyone. You can't connect with everyone. Ultimately, my faith is a big part of kind of decision making and who I spend time with. And so, um, I believe that God puts everyone in my path, but that He's the master networker. He already knows everybody, anyways. So if I'm supposed to meet someone, like I believe that I will meet them.
And I think a key point you had brought up there is understanding that people are brought into your life, some individuals, not everyone, for a season and to teach you something. And it is okay to say, okay, I understand that from connecting with you, we both brought value, but thinking in your head, okay, this is someone who was meant to be here for a season. It is okay. And especially with friendships, that isn't just in the workplace. Sometimes individuals forget that even those friends they've had for 5, 10 years, you're going in different directions. And it is okay to say at some point, I have these boundaries. This is what I'm trying to do, whether it's going in different directions or what, but say, okay, you were meant to be here for these 5 years. We had great times, great memories, but now, it's weighing on me more than the value that our friendship or this relationship is growing and that energy I can't have. So, you never know where it might bring. And I always say that of you never want to end something badly. You never want to just one of my biggest pet peeves, and I think we talked about this, is when someone just like blocks you or just stops responding. Because to me, it's okay, have hard conversations. Be able to say, you know what, I right now in this moment in time, this is where I'm trying to go. And if we're not aligning, that is okay. But
Mhm.
let's continue. We'll stay in touch maybe, or I'll reach back in, especially in a work environment, I'll reach back to you in 6 months and let you know, or this or that. Setting those boundaries, those goals, and being transparent is really important.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. I mean, and I found personally for me, there are very few people I actually have to come out and say, okay, you're crossing a line here. I need to pull back. I could count on one hand, like in the last decade, how many of those conversations I've had. What's more likely to happen is that you're growing and they're either growing or not. And so either you grow apart or you're growing up and they're not growing, or they're growing and you're not growing. So it's just this natural kind of separation that occurs. And I mean, it has to be two-sided. So if you're going to really connect and really keep a relationship going, has to be on both sides. It can't be one-sided because nothing will really come out of that. So I found that, as I go through life and I'm living in my purpose and doing what I'm supposed to do, people will either be pulled towards that and our paths are going to cross, or they're going to be repelled by where I'm going because they're going somewhere different. And it just is kind of a natural split. But if you can make it to where, like you said, you don't end on a bad note with anyone. I've worked with several individuals where maybe just us connecting at that time, it wasn't the right timing, and it's not anything on them, it's not anything on me. The timing was bad, and life was happening for one or both of us. But maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, maybe longer, our paths intersect again and the timing is better and it's turned into something really amazing. So that's another key reason for not ending anything badly, because if you put a bad taste in someone's mouth, like that's really hard to reconcile and ever meet again down the road.
And that is very important to understand. And key point is when you say don't end something poorly because it's going to leave that bad taste in someone's mouth. And you never know. Like you said, it could be a situation of just the timing. You guys have similar personalities. You could be getting along, working well if it's professionally, but in that time, your head spaces are different. You different things going on that is kind of putting that pressure cooker on you. But 2 or 3 years when you're in a different place and you run into each other, or it could be whatever it might be, you can have this moment and this season or longer trajectory of oh, wow, this is really healthy. We get really along. But the second you kind of force someone else's hand to look at you in a different light, than being respectful, than saying, hey, this is my truth, this is my transparency, here's me being authentic. When you don't allow someone to do that, and you kind of just say, you know, build that wall up, whether it's not responding to someone, being rude for no reason at the end, you never know when that time's going to hit, whether you're going to have to work together again, or you might meet one of their friends and now you have to hang out in an environment. It becomes very awkward and uncomfortable. And so why make that situation for yourself when you don't have to be, and you can walk away from a relationship, whether it's personal or professional, saying, okay, I only have good memories
Right.
as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's key. That goes back to where I was quoting Brene Brown, like clear is kind and unclear is unkind. Just be really clear with people and, keep open hands, open expectations. And, that's my take on networking.
And how can people connect with you if they want to talk to you some more?
Yeah, so I respond probably best to my Instagram DMs, believe it or not. I know that's not always the case for most people. LinkedIn, I'm very hit or miss at, but you can also send me an email at ahcadavos@gmail, and I respond well to emails.
Thank you, Anna, for all of your insight today. A few of our key takeaways from today's conversation are: get money and make income. Your passive income can turn around and make more money for you than just your weekly paycheck. And you have to think about that, as well as know you are not for everyone. Understanding you can't make everyone happy, everyone's going to like you, will add value to you, and knowing whether it's your market in passive income and knowing the correct people that you're trying to reach and make it focused will only benefit you in the long run. And clear is kind. I love that one. Being clear, being authentic, it's the difference between being kind and being, in the wrong, or just not understanding how someone's going to perceive it. If you're clear, you are yourself, whether it's networking or in your personal relationships, it can only benefit you. This was a great episode with our top notch guest, Anna Cadavos. Thank you for listening and have a fantastic day.